The war was over. 3 months had passed since the Treaty of Orion brought peace between humans and the Valori. But for Kang Doan, the war never really ended. It lived inside him in his dreams, in the faces he saw when he closed his eyes. Doan lived alone on the colony. World of New Busan. The planet was scarred from the fighting. Broken buildings stood like skeletons against the gray sky, but people were coming back. They were rebuilding. Life was returning. Doan did not rebuild. He worked in a warehouse, moving heavy boxes from one place to another. The work was simple. It kept his hands busy and his mind quiet. That was all he wanted. He was 34 years old. His face was hard, marked by a long scar that ran from his left eyebrow to his jaw. His eyes were dark and tired. He had been a sergeant in the 7th Terran Strike Division. His men called him the Wall because nothing could break him. But the war had broken him in ways that did not show on the outside. One evening, Doan sat in his small room eating rice and dried fish. The window showed the purple sunset of New Busan. It was quiet. He liked the quiet. Then someone knocked on his door. Doan did not move at first. He had no friends here, no family. Who would visit him? The knock came again, harder this time. He stood up slowly and walked to the door. When he opened it, he saw a woman in a military uniform. She was tall and strong, with short black hair and sharp eyes. He knew her face immediately. Han Jisoo, his former squad leader. Now she wore the marks of a high officer. "Hello, Doan," she said. "Jisoo." His voice was flat. "What do you want?" "Can I come in?" He did not want to say yes. But he stepped aside and let her enter. Jisoo looked around his small room. There was almost nothing inside. A bed, a table, a chair, no pictures, no decorations. It was the room of a man who was just waiting. "You live like a ghost," she said. "I am a ghost." Jisoo turned to face him. Her expression was serious. "I have an assignment for you. I am not a soldier anymore. The Terran Defense Corps says differently. You never officially left." "Then I am leaving now. I am done with fighting." "This is not about fighting," Jisoo said. "It is about protection." She reached into her coat and pulled out a small device. She pressed a button and a hologram appeared in the air. It showed an alien girl. She had pale silver skin that seemed to glow softly. Her eyes were large and dark, like pools of deep water. She looked young, fragile, and afraid. "Her name is Yura," Jisoo said. "She is the daughter of the Valori High Ambassador. The one who pushed for peace." "I heard he was killed," Doan said.
Yes.
2 weeks ago. Assassinated by extremists? Some were Valori who hated the peace. Some were human. Jisoo's voice became heavy. "They are working together now. The ones who want the war to continue." Dohan stared at the hologram. The girl's eyes seemed to look right at him. "Yura is in danger," Jisoo continued. "She is the symbol of peace now. If she dies, the treaty could fall apart. Both sides could go back to war, then give her Valori guards. The Valori moderates do not trust their own people anymore. The assassins came from inside." Jisoo paused. "They ask for a human protector. Someone who proved during the war that he could tell the difference between an enemy soldier and an innocent person." Doan felt something cold move through him. He knew what she was talking about. During the Battle of Valori Station, his unit had found a shelter full of Valori civilians. Women, children, old people. His commanding officer ordered them to eliminate everyone. Doan refused. He protected those civilians with his own body. He nearly faced a court-martial for it. "That was different," he said quietly. "Was it? You showed mercy when everyone else wanted blood. That is why they want you." Doan turned away from the hologram. He walked to his window and looked out at the darkening sky. His hands were shaking slightly. He pressed them against the wall. "I cannot do this," he said. "I am broken, Jisoo. I see their faces every night. The ones I killed, the ones I could not save. If I fail this girl, it will destroy whatever is left of me." Jisoo walked up behind him. Her voice became softer. "Doan, I know what the war took from you. I know about your nightmares. I know you wake up screaming. She put her hand on his shoulder. But this girl asked for you specifically. Doan turned around. What? Yura, read about what you did at Vellery Station? She said something that I will never forget. Jizu looked into his eyes. She said, only a former enemy can understand what peace truly costs. The words hit Doan like a punch to the chest. He could not speak. She is just a girl, Jisu said. A scared girl whose father was murdered. She has no one left. The entire galaxy wants to use her as a symbol. But she is not a symbol. She is a person. And she needs someone to protect her. Not for politics. For her, Dohan closed his eyes. He thought about the Velour children in that shelter. The way they looked at him with terror. And then, slowly, with hope. Where is she? He asked. On a Terran station near the border? I can take you there tonight. Doan opened his eyes. He looked at the hologram of Yura one more time. She was so young. So fragile. The universe was cruel to put such a heavy burden on such small shoulders. Fine, he said. I will do it. Jisu nodded. There was no smile on her face. She knew this was not a happy moment. It was a heavy one. 3 hours later, Doan stood in a bright white room on the Terran border station. He wore simple clothes, not a uniform. He did not want to look like a soldier, but he knew he could never stop being one. The door opened. Yera walked in. She was smaller than he expected. She wore a simple blue robe, and her silver skin glowed faintly in the white light. Her large eyes fixed on him immediately. He felt something strange, like she was looking inside him, like she could see everything he was trying to hide. They stood in silence for a long moment. You are Kang Dohan, she said. Her voice was soft, musical, but there was strength in it. Yes, you killed many of my people. The words cut deep, but Doan did not look away. Yes, I did. Yura tilted her head slightly. Her eyes never left his face. And yet you saved many others. When you did not have to. When it was dangerous for you? Yes, why? Doan thought about the question. No one had ever asked him that. Not really, because they were not soldiers, he said finally. They were just people. The war was not their fault. Yura was quiet for a moment. Then she did something unexpected. She walked closer to him. Very close. She reached up and touched his scarred face with her silver fingers. Her touch was cool and gentle. I can feel your pain, she whispered. It is very deep. You carry so much grief. Doan felt his throat tighten. He wanted to pull away, but he could not move. I do not need you to like me, Yura said. I do not need you to understand me. I only need you to keep me alive long enough to finish my father's work. She dropped her hand. Can you do that? Doan looked at this alien girl. This fragile creature who carried the hope of 2 species on her shoulders. He saw her strength hiding behind her fear. He saw her father's dream burning in her eyes. I can do that, he said. Yura nodded once. Then we begin. Yeah. Neither of them trusted the other. But in that moment, standing in that cold white room, something started. Something that would change both of their lives forever. The war was over. But the fight for peace had just begun. The Velour diplomatic vessel was called the Silver Wind. It was a beautiful ship, long and curved like a flowing river. Inside, everything was soft and elegant. The walls glowed with gentle blue light. The floors were smooth and warm. Music played softly from hidden speakers. Doan hated it. He sat in his small cabin cleaning his plasma pistol. The Velour had given him a room next to Yura's quarters. It was comfortable, with a soft bed and beautiful decorations. But Doan felt trapped. He was a soldier on an alien ship, surrounded by people who had been his enemies just months ago. The journey to Station Aria would take 5 days. 5 days of floating through space? 5 days of watching and waiting. On the first day, Yura invited him to eat with her. The dining room was large and filled with Valerie crew members. They all stopped talking when Doan entered. Their large eyes watched him with a mix of curiosity and fear. He was probably the first human many of them had seen up close. who was not trying to kill them. Yura sat at a long table, covered with strange Velori food. There were purple fruits, silver soups, and things that moved slightly on the plate. Doan looked at the food and felt his stomach turn. "Please, sit," Yura said. Doan sat across from her. The Velori crew members slowly went back to their own meals, but they kept glancing at him. "You do not like our food," Yura observed. "I do not know what it is." "This is Nakri fruit. Very sweet. This is silver kelp soup. Very healthy. And this," she pointed at the moving thing, "is alive. It is a delicacy." Doan stared at the moving food. "I will eat the fruit." Yura almost smiled. Almost. "Humans are very strange. You will eat the flesh of dead animals, but living plants disturb you." "Everything about this disturbs me," Doan said honestly. Yura tilted her head. "Then why did you come?" "Because someone asked me to." "I did not ask you. I asked for a human protector. You could have refused." Doan picked up a purple fruit and bit into it. It was very sweet, almost too sweet. He chewed slowly, thinking about her words. "I spent 5 years fighting your people," he said finally. "I killed more Valori than I can count. I watched my friends die. I watched your people die." He looked at her. "Maybe I came because I am tired of death. Maybe protecting one life can make up for all the ones I took." Yura was quiet for a long moment. Her large eyes studied his face. "It will not," she said softly. "Nothing can balance that scale. But the trying matters. The trying is what makes us different from the darkness." Doan had no answer for that. The days passed slowly. Doan spent most of his time patrolling the ship, checking security, and watching the Velori crew. They avoided him, but they were not hostile. Most of them were young, born during the war, raised on stories of human monsters. Now they had to share their ship with one. On the third night, Yura found him on the observation deck. He was standing alone, looking at the stars through the great curved window. The view was beautiful. Millions of stars, swirling galaxies, the endless darkness of space. "You come here every night," Yura said. "How do you know that?" "I can feel you. Your emotions are very strong. Sadness, loneliness, they are like a beacon in the dark." Doan shifted uncomfortably. "Your ability. Reading emotions. It is strange. To you, perhaps. To my people, it is natural. We evolved to sense each other's feelings. It helped us survive." She walked closer and stood beside him. "It also makes lying very difficult. Can you read my thoughts?" "No, only feelings. Thoughts are hidden, but feelings are honest. They show the truth of a person." Doan was quiet. He did not like the idea of anyone seeing inside him. "Tell me about your home," Yura said suddenly. "My home?" "Earth. Your planet. What is it like?" Doan thought about the question. He had not thought about Earth in a long time. He had left when he was 20 years old, joining the military to escape poverty and find purpose. He had not been back since. "I am from Korea," he said slowly. "A country on Earth. It has mountains and rivers and green forests. In autumn, the leaves turn red and gold. The temples are old and quiet. When I was a boy, my grandmother made kimchi. It is a food made from vegetables, spicy and sour. I can still remember the taste." Yura listened with her head tilted, her eyes wide. "It sounds beautiful," she said. Maybe it still is. I have not seen it in 14 years. Do you miss it?" Doan felt something tighten in his chest. "I did not allow myself to miss it. During the war, thinking about home was dangerous. It made you soft. It made you hesitate." He paused. "Now I do not know. Maybe I am afraid to go back. Afraid of what I have become." Yura reached out and touched his arm. Her silver fingers were cool against his skin. "You are not a monster, Kong Doan," she said. "I would feel it if you were." Before he could answer, the ship shook violently. Alarms began screaming. Red lights flashed. Doan grabbed Yura and pulled her behind him. His pistol was in his hand instantly. "What is happening?" Yura asked. "Attack." The door to the observation deck burst open. 3 Velour rushed in, but they were not crew members. They wore black armor and carried plasma rifles. Their eyes were wild with hatred. Death to the traitor's daughter. One of them screamed. Dohan moved without thinking. He pushed Yura down and fired. The first attacker fell, a burning hole in his chest. The second fired at Doan, but he was already moving. He rolled behind a pillar and shot again. The second attacker dropped. The third one ran toward Yura, a blade in his hand. Doan threw himself forward. He tackled the attacker just before the blade reached Yura. They hit the ground hard. The Valori was strong, stronger than a human. But Doan had years of training and rage, burning in his blood. He grabbed the attacker's wrist and twisted until the bone snapped. The Valori screamed. Doan smashed his fist into the attacker's face once, twice, 3 times. The body went still. Doan stood up, breathing hard. His hands were covered in purple blood. Yura stared at him from the floor. Her eyes were huge with shock. She had watched him kill 3 of her own people in seconds. "Are you hurt?" Doan asked. She shook her head slowly. "We need to move. There may be more." He helped her up, and they ran through the ship. More alarms were screaming. The crew was panicking, running in all directions. Dohan held Yura's hand tight and pushed through the chaos. They reached a secure room deep in the ship. Doan locked the door and checked every corner before letting himself breathe. Yura sat on the floor, hugging her knees. She was shaking. "The Pale Dawn," she whispered. "They found us." "Who are they?" "A radical group. They believe peace with humans is a betrayal of our species. They killed my father." Her voice broke. "Now they want to kill me." Doan knelt in front of her. He did not know what to say. He was not good with words. He was only good with violence, but then he noticed something. His left arm was burning. He looked down and saw a deep cut from the blade. Blood was soaking through his sleeve. "You are hurt," Yura said. "What?" "It is nothing." "No, let me see." She pulled his arm toward her and pushed up his sleeve. The cut was long, but not deep. She placed her hands over the wound. Her palms began to glow with soft light. Doan felt warmth spreading through his arm. The pain faded. "My people have some healing abilities," Yura explained. "Not strong, but enough for small wounds." Doan watched her work. Her face was focused, gentle. She was so young, and she had already seen so much death. Her father, her people trying to kill her, and now this human soldier, covered in the blood of her own kind. During the fight, Yura said quietly, not looking up, "I felt your emotions." Doan tensed. "I expected to feel bloodlust, anger, hatred." She finally looked at him, but I did not. "I felt fear, desperate fear." "You were terrified." "I was not afraid for myself." "I know." "You were afraid for me. Afraid you would fail." Her eyes filled with tears. "No one has felt that way about me since my father died." Doan did not know what to say, so he said nothing. Yura finished healing his wound and let go of his arm. She wiped her eyes. "Thank you," she said, "for protecting me." Doan nodded. He stood up and checked his pistol. "The Pale Dawn has allies," he said. "Velori and human extremists working together. This attack was planned. They knew our route. What do we do?" Dohan looked at her. "This fragile girl with the weight of peace on her shoulders." "We survive," he said. "And we get you to Station Aria, no matter what." Yura stood up slowly. There was something new in her eyes. Not just fear, but determination. "Then let us survive together," she said. Duhan almost smiled. Almost. The ship continued through the stars, damaged but alive. Behind them, the bodies of the attackers grew cold. Ahead, danger waited. But something had changed between the soldier and the girl. They were no longer strangers. They were survivors. And in the darkness of space, that bond was stronger than any treaty. Station Aria was massive. It floated in neutral space like a small moon built from metal and light. Thousands of ships came and went from its ports. Millions of beings lived inside its walls. It was a place of trade, of politics, of secrets, and now it was the stage for the most important piece, summit in galactic history. Du-Hun stood on the landing platform as their damaged ship docked. Security teams swarmed around them. Vellery officials shouted orders. Human diplomats pushed through the crowd. Everyone wanted to see Yura. Everyone wanted a piece of the ambassador's daughter. But Do-Un kept them back. He stood between Yura and the chaos, his hand never far from his weapon. "Give her space," he growled at a pushy journalist. They were escorted to a secure section of the station. Their quarters were large and comfortable, with windows that looked out at the stars. Guards stood at every door. But Do-Un did not trust any of them. He checked every room himself. He tested every lock. He studied every face. "You have not slept in 2 days," Yura said. Watching him from the doorway, "I will sleep when you are safe. If you collapse from exhaustion, you cannot protect me." She had a point. But Do-Un did not admit it. He just kept checking. The summit was scheduled to begin in 3 days. Leaders from both species would gather. They would sign agreements. They would shake hands. They would smile for cameras. And hopefully they would build a real peace. But first, Yura had to give a speech. It was supposed to be the emotional heart of the summit. The daughter of the murdered ambassador standing before both species, calling for unity. It would be powerful. It would be historic. Yira was terrified. The night before her speech, Do-Un found her sitting alone in her room. She was staring at a tablet with her speech written on it. Her hands were trembling. "I cannot do this," she whispered. Du-Hun leaned against the doorway. "You have to." "No, but I cannot." She looked up at him with desperate eyes. "I am not my father." He was brave. He was wise. He knew exactly what to say. "I am just a girl. What do I know about peace? What do I know about changing the galaxy?" Do-Un was quiet for a moment. Then he walked over and sat down across from her. "When I was 20 years old," he said, "I fought in my first real battle. We were defending a colony called New Guangzhou. The Valerie ships came from nowhere. There were thousands of them. We had maybe 200 soldiers." Yura listened, her trembling hands growing still. "I was so scared I could not breathe," Do-Un continued. "I wanted to run. I wanted to hide. I wanted to go home to my mother and never see a weapon again." Paused. "But I did not run. I stayed. I fought. And we held that colony for 6 hours until reinforcements arrived." "How?" Yura asked. "How did you fight when you were so afraid?" "I decided that something mattered more than my fear. The people in that colony, my fellow soldiers, the ones who needed me to stand." Do-Un looked into her eyes. "Fear is not weakness. Every soldier feels it. Courage is not about having no fear. It is about deciding that something else matters more." Yura was quiet for a long moment. "What if I fail?" she asked. "Then you fail, and you try again. But you will never know unless you stand up and speak." Yura looked down at her tablet. Then, slowly, she nodded. "Will you be there? When I give my speech, I will be there, watching over you, like always." For the first time since he met her, Yura smiled. It was small and fragile, but it was real. The next day, the great hall of Station Aria was filled with thousands of beings. Humans and Vellery sat side by side, separated by invisible walls of distrust. Journalists recorded everything. Security watched from every corner. The tension was so thick Do-Un could feel it pressing against his skin. He stood near the stage, hidden in the shadows, his eyes scanning the crowd. Yira walked onto the stage. She looked so small against the massive backdrop of stars. Her silver skin glowed under the bright lights. Her hands were clasped in front of her. Do-Un could see they were shaking slightly, but her voice was steady when she began to speak. "My father believed in peace," she said. "He believed that humans and Vellery could live together, work together, build together. He gave his life for that belief." Yet the crowd was silent, listening. "I know many of you still hate. I know many of you have lost family, friends, everything you loved to this war. I know because I feel your pain. I feel your anger. I feel your grief." Her large eyes swept across the audience. "I feel it because I share it." She paused, and her voice grew stronger. "But I also feel something else. I feel hope. In the human nurse who treated Valerie, wounded when no one was watching. In the Valerie pilot who let a human escape pod pass unharmed. In every small act of mercy that happened during the darkness of war." Her eyes found Doan in the shadows. In a soldier who risked everything to protect civilians who were supposed to be his enemies, Doan felt his chest tighten. "Peace is not about forgetting the past," Yura continued. "It is about choosing the future. It is about looking at someone who hurt you and deciding that the children of both our species deserve better. It is hard, it is painful, but it is the only way forward." She lifted her chin, and her voice rang through the hall. "I am not my father. I am young. I am scared. I do not have all the answers. But I have his dream, and I will fight for it with every breath in my body. Not with weapons. Not with hate. But with hope." The hall erupted in applause. Both humans and Valerie stood, clapping, crying, cheering. Yura stood on the stage, tears streaming down her silver face, overwhelmed by the response. For one perfect moment, peace felt possible. Then Doan saw him, a human man in the crowd, pushing toward the stage. His eyes were fixed on Yura with terrible intensity. His hand was reaching into his coat. Doan moved. He jumped from the shadows and ran toward the stage. Time seemed to slow down. He saw the man pull out a small plasma pistol. He saw the weapon rise toward Yura. Doan threw himself in front of her just as the man fired. The plasma bolt hit Doan in the chest. Pain exploded through his body. He fell backward, crashing onto the stage. Screams filled the hall. Security swarmed the shooter and dragged him down. Chaos erupted everywhere, but Yura did not run. She dropped to her knees beside Doan and pressed her hands against his wound. Her palms glowed with light, but the wound was too deep. Blood was spreading across the stage. "No, no, no," Yura cried. "You cannot die. You promised to protect me. You cannot leave me." Doan looked up at her face. His vision was blurring. The pain was fading, replaced by cold. "You did good," he whispered. "Your speech. Your father would be proud. Just talking. Save your strength." But Doan could feel himself slipping away. The darkness was calling him. All the faces of the dead were waiting. Then Yura did something unexpected. She placed her forehead against his. Her large eyes closed. And suddenly, Doan felt something pulling him back. It was like a rope made of light, anchoring his soul to his body. "I will not let you go," Yura whispered. "I am holding you here. Stay with me. Stay." Doan felt warmth spreading through the cold. He heard voices shouting for medics. He felt hands lifting him onto a stretcher. But through it all, he felt Yura. Her presence was like a beacon, bright and steady. Refusing to let him drift into the darkness, he held on to that light. When Doan woke up, he was in a medical bay. White walls, soft beeping machines, the smell of medicine. Yura was sitting beside his bed. Her eyes were red from crying. She looked exhausted. "How long?" Doan asked. His voice was weak. 3 days. "You almost died twice. The doctors say you are very stubborn." "I have been told that before." Yura took his hand. Her silver fingers wrapped around his rough, scarred ones. "You saved my life," she said. "That is my job." "No, this was more than a job. I felt it. When you were dying, I felt what was in your heart." Her voice trembled. "You do not just protect me because someone told you to. You protect me because you care. Because you see me as a person, not a symbol." Doan did not deny it. He could not. "When I was dying," he said slowly, "I saw faces. All the people I killed. All the people I could not save. They were pulling me into the dark." He looked at her. "But then I felt you. You pulled me back." Yura squeezed his hand tighter. We are connected now, she said. My people have a word for it. It means souls that touch. It is rare. It is precious. Doan did not fully understand, but he knew one thing. He was no longer just a soldier doing a job. He was something more, something he did not have a word for yet. Rest, Yura said, pushing him gently back onto the pillow. You need to heal, and when you are strong again, we have work to do. Doan closed his eyes. For the first time in years, he did not dream of the dead. He dreamed of autumn leaves in Korea, falling golden and red. And beside him, a girl made of silver starlight, watching the leaves with wonder. Peace was still fragile. The enemy was still out there. But in that medical bay, surrounded by the cold of space, two wounded souls had found something unexpected. They had found each other, too. Weeks had passed since the assassination attempt. Doan was healing, but slowly. The plasma bolt had burned through muscle and bone. The doctor said he needed months of rest. Doan gave himself 2 weeks. He forced himself out of bed. He trained in secret, pushing through the pain until sweat dripped from his face and his vision blurred. Yura caught him once and was furious. It will kill yourself, she said. There are people trying to do that already. I need to be ready. Intelligence reports have been coming in. The pale dawn was not finished. They were planning something bigger. Something terrible. Baek Minho arrived at Station Aria with a team of soldiers. He was Doan's oldest friend, a big man with a quick laugh and scars across his arms. They had fought together for 5 years. You look terrible, Minho said when he saw Doan. You look fat, Minho grinned. It is peace. Good food. No running from plasma fire. He clapped Doan on the shoulder. But I hear there is one more mission. One more chance to hurt the people who want to destroy everything we fought for. The intelligence was clear. The Pale Dawn had a hidden base on the moon of the Valori homeworld. They were building weapons. They planned to attack the final ceremony of the summit, when human and Valori leaders would sign the Eternal Accord together. If they succeeded, both governments would be destroyed. The war would start again, worse than before. We need to hit them first, Doan said in the strategy meeting. Destroy their base. Kill their leadership. End this. Han Jisoo was there via hologram. Her face was worried. You are in no condition for combat, she said. I am in better condition than anyone else who knows what we are facing. He's right, Minho said. Doan has survived things that would kill normal men, and we need someone who understands the enemy. Not just the Valori, but the human extremists working with them. Jisoo was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. Fine. But this is not just your mission, Doan. This is for everyone. For peace. Doan understood. The night before the mission, Yura came to his quarters. She stood in the doorway, her silver skin glowing softly in the dim light. I want to come with you, she said. Du-hun looked up from his weapons. No. I am tired of hiding. I am tired of being protected while others fight and die for me. I want to help. You help by staying alive. You are the symbol of peace. If you die, everything falls apart. And if you die, Yura's voice cracked. What happens to me then? Doan stopped. He set down the plasma rifle he was cleaning and turned to face her fully. You survive. You keep fighting. That is what humans do. That is what your father did. We fall down and we get back up. Yura's eyes filled with tears. You speak of death so easily, like it means nothing. It means everything. That is why I fight so hard against it. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Yura walked forward and pressed something into his hand. It was a small crystal, pale blue, glowing with inner light. This is a bonding token, she said. It carries a piece of my essence, my emotions, my presence. She looked up at him. If you are ever lost, I will find you. No matter how far, no matter how dark. Doan held the crystal carefully. It was warm in his palm, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. I will come back, he said. Promise me. He hesitated. Soldiers did not make promises. Promises were broken too easily by plasma fire and bad luck, but looking at Eurus's face, he could not refuse. I promise. The assault team flew through space in a stealth ship. There were 12 of them. Doan, Minho, 10 of the best soldiers, Terran Defense Corps had. The moon appeared on their screens gray and cold. The pale dawn base was hidden in an underground complex. They would have to breach the surface entrance and fight their way down. Ready? Minho asked. Doan checked his rifle. His body ached. His chest burned where the plasma bolt had hit him. But he pushed the pain away. Ready? They dropped from the ship like falling stars. The surface of the moon was silent and dead. No atmosphere, no life. Just dust and rock and the hidden door to hell. They blasted through the entrance and the fight began. The pale dawn was ready for them. Fanatics poured from every corridor, screaming their hatred, firing their weapons. The narrow tunnels became rivers of light and blood. Duhan moved like a machine. He fired, he dodged, he killed. Beside him, Minho was a force of nature, his big body crashing through enemies like a storm. But the enemy was strong. For every fanatic they killed, 2 more appeared. There are too many. One soldier shouted before a plasma bolt took his head. Keep moving, Doan ordered. The control center is below. They fought deeper into the base. The walls were covered with symbols of the pale dawn, painted in purple blood. Screens showed propaganda, images of war, calls for the destruction of humanity. Finally, they reached the heart of the complex. The control center was a massive room filled with machines and weapons. And standing in the center, waiting for them, was the leader of the Pale Dawn. He was an old Valori, his silver skin faded to gray. His eyes burned with cold fire. Around him stood his personal guards, the most devoted of his followers. So the humans send their attack dog, the old Valori said. His voice was calm, almost sad. I know you, Kong Doan, the wall, the one who showed mercy at Valori Station. Your war is over, Doan said. Surrender. The old Valori laughed. It was a bitter, broken sound. You think you understand war? You think you understand loss? He stepped forward, his guards raising their weapons. I lost my wife at Valori Station. My children. My grandchildren. All burned by human weapons. All screaming as they died. Doan felt something shift inside him. He looked at the old Valori and saw not a monster, but a broken creature. Just like himself, made of grief and rage. I am sorry for your loss, Doan said quietly. Your sorrow means nothing. Peace means nothing. The only truth is fire. The only justice is destruction. The old Valori raised his hand. If I cannot win, then everyone burns. He pressed a button on his wrist. Alarms screamed. Red lights flashed everywhere. Self-destruct activated, a mechanical voice announced. 60 seconds, the guards charged. The battle erupted. Dohan fought like never before. His rifle blazed. His fist struck. Bodies fell around him. Minho was at his side, roaring with fury, cutting through enemies, but there were too many, and time was running out. Go. Minho shouted. Get to the exit. I will hold them. No, we go together. There is no time. Minho pushed Doan toward the door. You promised her? Remember? You promised you would come back. Doan hesitated. The crystal in his pocket pulsed with warmth. He felt Yera's presence, distant but real, reaching for him across the void. Minho, go, brother. Let me have this one. Minho smiled, blood running down his face. I have been following you for 15 years. Let me lead for once. The countdown reached 30 seconds. Doan ran. He sprinted through the collapsing tunnels, explosions rocking the ground beneath his feet. Behind him, he heard Minho's battle cry, then nothing. He did not look back. He could not. He reached the surface just as the base exploded. The blast threw him into the air. He crashed onto the gray moon dust, rolling, tumbling, pain screaming through every part of his body. Fire and smoke erupted behind him, reaching toward the stars. Then silence. Doan lay on the dead moon, staring at the sky. His body was broken. His heart was shattered. Minho was gone. Half his team was gone. But the crystal in his pocket still glowed. And through it, he felt Yura. She was crying. She knew something terrible had happened, but she was also calling him, "Come back. Come back to me." Doan dragged himself to his feet. Blood dripped from a dozen wounds. Every step was agony. But he walked. Toward the extraction point. Toward the ship that would take him home, he had promised. Hours later, Doan arrived at Station Aria. He was carried off the ship on a stretcher. His body was barely alive, but he was alive. YIRA was waiting. She pushed through the crowd of medics and grabbed his hand. Her silver face was wet with tears. "You came back," she whispered. Doan looked up at her. He thought of Minho's smile. He thought of all the soldiers who would never go home. "I promised," he said. Then the darkness took him. But this time he was not afraid. Because he knew that somewhere in the light, Yara was holding on to him. Refusing to let go, the war was over. The pale dawn was destroyed. But victory felt like ash in Doan's mouth. He had survived. But so many others had not. The breaking point had come and gone. And Kang Doan was not sure what was left of him on the other side. The peace ceremony took place 3 days after the destruction of the Pale. Dawn Base. The great hall of Station Aria was filled once again with humans and Valerie. But this time, the tension was different. It was the tension of hope, fragile and precious, waiting to be born. Doan watched from the shadows. His body was wrapped in bandages. His arm was in a sling. But he refused to stay in the medical bay. He needed to see this. He needed to see what all the death had been for. The human president and the Valori High Council stood together on the stage. Between them was a simple document, the Eternal Accord. It was just paper and words, but it represented the dreams of billions. "Today, we choose a new path," the human president said. "We lay down our weapons. We open our hands. We build a future where human children and Valori children can grow up without fear." The Valori Council leader spoke next. His voice was deep and resonant. "We have been enemies for too long. We have bled each other until we nearly forgot why we started fighting. But today, we remember what matters. Life. Peace. Tomorrow." They signed the document together. The hall erupted in cheers. Humans and Valerie embraced. Tears flowed freely. After years of darkness, light had finally broken through, and standing at the edge of the stage, her silver skin shining under the lights, was Yura. She watched the signing with quiet tears streaming down her face. This was her father's dream, and it had finally come true. Her eyes found Doan in the shadows. She smiled at him, a smile of pure gratitude. He did not smile back. He could not. There was too much grief inside him. Too many empty chairs where his friends should be sitting. But he nodded. Just once, it was enough. After the ceremony, Yura found him on the observation deck. He was standing alone, staring at the stars, just like he always did. "You should be celebrating," she said. "I should be dead." Yura walked up beside him. She did not touch him, but she stood close. "Minho was a good man," she said quietly. "He was the best man I ever knew. Loyal, brave, stupid. He saved my life 100 times, and I could not save his once. He chose to stay. He chose to give you time. That was his gift to you, a gift I did not want." Yura was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke, her voice gentle. "When my father was killed, I wanted to die too. I felt like there was no point in living. He was everything to me. My guide, my protector, my hope." She paused. "But then I realized something. If I died, his dream would die with me. The only way to honor him was to live. To keep fighting. To make his sacrifice mean something." Doan listened. The words cut through his grief like a knife through cloth. "Minho did not die so you could mourn forever," Yura continued. "He died so you could live. So you could protect what matters. So you could find peace, even if it takes the rest of your life." Doan turned to look at her. Her large eyes were bright with tears, but also with strength. She had grown so much in the weeks since he met her. She was no longer just a frightened girl. She was a leader. What do I do now? He asked. The war is over. The enemy is destroyed. I have been a soldier my whole life. I do not know how to be anything else. Yura took his hand, her silver fingers wrapped around his scarred ones. Then learn, she said simply. Start again. Humans are good at that, are they not? You fall down, and you get back up. You rebuild. You hope. Doan looked at their joined hands. Human and Valori. Killer and healer. Two broken creatures holding each other up. Come with me, Yura said. Where? Earth. Your home. I want to see the mountains you told me about. The autumn leaves. The temples. I want to taste your grandmother's kimchi. Despite everything, Doan almost laughed. My grandmother died 10 years ago. Then we will make it ourselves. You can teach me. Doan looked at her for a long moment. The stars glittered behind her like a crown. She looked like hope itself, small and fragile, but unbreakable. Okay, he said. 3 weeks later, they stood in the mountains of Korea. It was autumn. The leaves were turning red and gold, covering the slopes like fire. The air was crisp and clean. A small stream ran through the valley below, its water clear as glass. Yira turned in a slow circle, her silver skin catching the sunlight. Her eyes were wide with wonder. It is so beautiful, she whispered. I have never seen anything like this. Doan watched her spin among the falling leaves. She looked like a child discovering the world for the first time. Her joy was pure and innocent, untouched by the horrors they had survived. For the first time in years, Doan smiled. A real smile, not just a twitch of his lips. It felt strange on his face, like a muscle that had forgotten how to work. They walked down a narrow path toward a small village. The houses were old and traditional, with curved roofs and paper walls. Smoke rose from chimneys. The smell of cooking food filled the air. This is where you grew up? Yura asked. Near here? My village was smaller, poorer, but it looked like this. Do you have family here? Dohan hesitated. Then he nodded. My mother. She is very old now. I have not seen her since I left to join the military. 14 years. Are you afraid to see her? Yes, Yura squeezed his hand. I will be with you. They walked through the village. People stared. A human man with scars and a military bearing, holding hands with an alien girl made of silver starlight. It was not something they saw every day, but no one was hostile. The war was over. Peace was real. And this strange pair was part of that peace. They reached a small house at the edge of the village. It was simple and worn, but clean. Flowers grew in pots by the door. Smoke curled from the chimney. Doan stopped. His heart was pounding. The door opened. An old woman stepped out. She was small and bent with age. Her hair was white, her face lined with years of worry and hard work, but her eyes were sharp and bright. She looked at Doan. Her hands rose to her mouth. Doan, she whispered. My son. Doan could not speak. His throat was closed with emotion. His mother walked forward slowly, reaching up to touch his scarred face. Tears streamed down her wrinkled cheeks. You came home, she said. After all these years, you finally came home. Doan fell to his knees. He wrapped his arms around his mother and held her tight. His body shook with sobs. All the grief, all the pain, all the loneliness poured out of him. I am sorry, he choked. I am so sorry. Hush, my boy. You are here now. That is all that matters. They held each other for a long time. Yura stood a few steps back, tears running down her silver face, giving them their moment. Finally, Doan's mother looked up and saw her. Her eyes widened slightly. And who is this? She asked. Duhan stood up slowly, wiping his face. He turned to Yura. Mother, this is Yura. She is. He paused, searching for the right words. She is my friend. She is the reason I am still alive. Yura bowed respectfully. It is an honor to meet you. Your son is a hero. Doan's mother studied Yura for a long moment. Then she smiled, her whole face crinkling with warmth. Any friend of my son is welcome in my home. Come inside. You must be hungry. Ate together. Simple food, rice, soup, vegetables from the garden. Doan's mother taught Yura how to make kimchi, and the alien girl laughed as she struggled with the spicy smell. Doan watched them, something warm spreading through his chest. After dinner, they sat outside and watched the sunset. The sky turned orange and pink and purple. The mountains were dark shapes against the fading light. Yura sat beside Doan, her head resting on his shoulder. Will the war ever truly end? She asked quietly. Inside you. Doan thought about the question. He thought about Minho, about all the friends he had lost, about all the enemies he had killed. The scars would never disappear. The nightmares might never stop. Maybe not, he said. Maybe I will carry it forever. Yura lifted her head and looked at him, but she prompted. Duhan met her eyes. Those large, luminous eyes that had seen him at his worst and still believed he could be better. But you have given me something to protect that is not just about survival. You have given me a reason to hope, a reason to build instead of destroy. He reached out and touched her face gently. A reason to live. Yura smiled. It was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. Then we will live together, she said. We will build a world where soldiers can become farmers, where enemies can become family, where the children of both our species can look at the stars without fear. Doan nodded. That sounds like a good world. It will take time. It will be hard, I know, but we will do it together. Together, Doan agreed. The sun sank below the mountains. Stars appeared in the darkening sky. Somewhere in the house, Doan's mother began to sing an old Korean song, her voice thin but sweet. Yura took Doan's hand. Her silver fingers were warm against his skin. The war was over. The scars remained. The grief would never fully fade. But in that moment, sitting under the stars of Earth, a soldier and a girl from beyond the sky had found something precious. They had found peace, not the peace of treaties and ceremonies, the real peace, the peace that lives in the heart. They had found home, and as the stars wheeled overhead, ancient and eternal, a new dawn was beginning, not just for the galaxy, but for two wounded souls who had learned against all odds that hope was stronger than hate, love was stronger than war, and even in the darkest night, the light always finds a way. The end.